Welcome to today's VCast, a Vendux podcast titled The Next Stage CEO. Today, I am happily joined by an old friend of mine, Harold Mann, founder and president of Mann Consulting, a San Francisco-based IT firm that he's been running since 1991, and co-founder of ClickTime, one of the web's early SaaS time and expense platforms, which he launched in 1998 and still runs today. Harold is a San Francisco native who sent his first email in 1979. He studied music with an emphasis in computer science at UC Berkeley and worked inside some of the most creative ad agencies in the country before going out on his own. Over 34 years, Harold has built Mann Consulting into a 35-person managed IT services firm that has been named 3 times to the fastest growing companies in the San Francisco Bay Area. He serves hundreds of businesses across biotech, fintech, SaaS, advertising, PR, and more. So, Harold, with that, welcome to today's VCast.
Thank you. I couldn't tell at first if that was an obituary or a bio, but I think they were going to be very similar.
I don't know, but it's impressive. You've got a great bio, great background.
Thank
I'm
you, Andy.
thrilled
Nice
to
to
have
see
you
you.
here today. So let's jump in. Let's just talk a little bit about your origin story. You sent your first email in 79 on a Multics system at MIT. This
Yeah.
before
Wow.
most people knew what email was. So,
A good job on your history, your background research there.
so is it quite accurate?
Yes, we were like 13 and 11, my brother and me, and we got to visit our cousin who was at MIT.
Uh-huh.
And he was a computer science guy. And he brought us over to the big Xerox Alto, which was the predecessor to the Macintosh type interface, and he got us accounts. And I mean, we had no idea what he was given access to, but I can confidently say I've been sending email longer than most of the people I know.
I mean, it's very impressive. You send email out when most people don't have email. So I'm subject for another day. Where did that email go? But so what did being that far ahead in the curve of IT tell you about technology, where technology was going, and big picture? How did it shape your instinct to start Mann Consulting in 91?
So the problem with where the problem with being early is in the moment you don't know you're early. You only know you're early when you're looking back on it decades later and you look on it whimsically or nostalgically. So in the moment, you don't really know and you're just sort of going with the flow. And so my early computer stuff was obviously just figuring it all out and being around a bunch of people who didn't know. So if you're going to do anything related to computers starting in 1980 something and up, for at least 15 years, you're just around a bunch of people who are blown away by the smallest of things, right? What's email? What's a website? What's interactive? What's multimedia? So we were able to ride that wave without having to strategize or having to have a business plan or anything. If you're just around enough people who don't know what's going on, like today with AI, you can make a nice living. And my brother and I were fortunate enough to be imbued with a desire to say yes and just a desire to have someone pay us for what seemed like easy stuff. And so very fortunate to be in an area of the world where it's very early to adopt those kinds of things.
Yeah. So interesting. You graduated from Berkeley with a degree in music with an emphasis in computer science. So that's a really unusual pairing. How did that combo show up in how you built Mann Consulting?
Sure. So it turns out if you're a computer science major and you have undiagnosed ADHD, then becoming a music major is a lot easier than dealing with all of the discrete calculus requirements of the major. So at a certain point in my academic studies pivoted, as we say, to something that was more attainable, which was a music major, which was very easy for me. So that was never part of the plan. But my IT career sort of found me. I just found myself answering everybody's technical questions. And eventually they said, "You want to be the IT guy for this ad agency that I worked with?" And then that just sort of started it all. And then at a certain point, I said, I just want to do this for as many people as I can. Um, and I think back now, if I had done a business plan, probably wouldn't have even started it because there's so much unknown in the consulting world. Everybody loves talking about consulting because they don't really know what it involves. And it involves a lot of unknown, a lot of unpredictable revenue. But I just went for it. It was a very impulsive decision. And that was October of 1991. And my resume has been very short ever since.
Yeah, so you managed IT within some fast moving ad agencies, and
Yes.
and then you launched your own firm. So when you were in those ad agencies, what did you see from the inside of 100-person plus creative agency that made you bet on the outside consultant?
Yeah. When you're around a bunch of people who just aren't using the tools as well as they could be, it can either frustrate you or it can really energize you. And I just saw all this opportunity, something that I was totally into. People around me were not really uh, adopting it or grabbing it as readily. And I was confident that that was going to be the way everybody needed to work. And so I just leaned in, stayed late. I would get my Wendy's dollar menu meal at when I took the BART home at 10 p.m. I was just staying late and investing in myself during those years because I just saw so much opportunity. And again, I bring it back to today because there's just so much opportunity now as well. If you have a mind for just seeing how many people are actually around you getting what's going on, it's a really exciting time, and it was back then too.
Yeah, yeah. So Man Consulting has been named now three times to the fastest growing companies in the San Francisco Bay Area. So growth at that pace inside a services firm is can be operationally brutal. What what costs, not necessarily financial, but what costs have you incurred, and what what nearly broke in that process of building your firm to be named three times as one of the fastest growing companies?
It was nice bragging rights getting those kinds of things. I'm glad we were noticed for it. The reality is, we were just drafting off of the success of our clients. Our clients were in the San Francisco scene, technology, advertising, marketing, PR, and they were growing like weeds in the early 90s. And so we just got in the habit of saying yes and never saying no. Did a bunch of work in Hollywood. They didn't know we were up in Northern California. So they would say, "Can you come in for a meeting tomorrow?" We say, "Sure." And then we'd I knew all the Southwest Airlines gate agents and in-flight attendants because we were just saying yes all the time. So if you do that enough and you try and build your business for some scale, the growth can happen. You do need to be in a dense environment though. So I do encourage people who are in markets where they feel like it's just not happening to go where the action is, um, if at all possible.
Yeah. Harold, you've also described the dot-com boom as the crisis that forced your systems thinking, like 90 to 95% staff turnover, losing almost all of your corporate continuity and institutional knowledge overnight. When you look back at that moment, what did it really feel like from the inside, and what was the first system then that you built as a direct result from there?
Yep. So the what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I fully believe that. We had a client that was a high percentage of our revenue. And one day they said, these three guys that you have embedded with us doing this work, we'd sort of like to hire them. And we were like, wait, we got this thing that says don't rate our staff or you have to pay. They said, yeah, we'll pay you. So in one day, I lost three great employees and one huge client. And that was sort of a never again moment. And to this day, one of the only metrics that matters to me in our business is what percentage our largest client makes up of our revenue. As long as that number stays under double digits and drops, we're doing great. And we can withstand some pretty significant fluctuations in our market, or even things like the 2008 crisis. I think there's maybe been one, maybe 2 years as a company where we weren't profitable and or where we had to do layoffs. So I'm very pleased at what that huge loss turned into, which was a never again moment. And the way we structured for that was to build more decentralized work where no one person was the absolute key to any single client relationship. And instead, it was a collection of people: account manager, key consultant, junior consultant, engineer, whatever the composition is, building it so that your business can withstand that. I mean, if you have an anchor tenant where they're 20, 30, 40% of your revenue, you're not really working for yourself. You're really working for that other company, and you just have your own letterhead. So if you really want to work for yourself, you have to build with resilience in mind, and that's what that lesson taught me.
Yeah, concentration risk can be such a killer. So that you're you on a related note, you're also famous. One of the things you're famous for is the idea that only about now, I think it's 2% of the incoming calls into Mann Consulting are actually for you, even though your name is on the door. So, is that really the case? How long did it take to get to that number? And you just talk a little bit about that journey from 100% to the two.
I wouldn't say I'm famous for it, but I'm very proud of it. And it's not because I don't like clients. I will tell you, if you know me, and you sort of know me, but some people really know me, I'm really lazy. And a lot of people want to argue with that. But the reality is, if you want to really learn a fast way to get something done, give it to a lazy person. And that's very true. I will tell you, I had a natural just impetus to not want to have to do work that was going to hold me back from growing the business. So the E-Myth is obviously a very popular business book talking about working on the business or in the business. I naturally gravitated towards working on the business. And what that meant was if I am helping any one client, then every hour I'm doing that is an hour I'm not growing the business. I might be growing the revenue, but I'm not growing the business. I was very fortunate to be around a lot of very um, talented people in the San Francisco Bay Area. Back, before COVID, everybody worked together in an office. And so I was able to rely on folks and not have it be about me. Very much like parenting, actually. Once it's not about you and it's about someone else, it's a bit of a load off, and you can just sort of focus on someone else. So the brand is a key thing for me as having worked in an ad agency. And when you make something about a brand, then it's just a totally different kind of set of priorities. I was marvel at companies like McDonald's or Diet Coke, or where you go there and it's always a reliable, consistent product. And then when you try and deliver that kind of consistency in the service business, you really have to change how you approach things. It can't be a thing where, oh, well, be sure you ask for Andrew if you call this company. If you're going to deliver something consistently as a brand, you need to make sure that the customers know they're always going to get a certain level of quality and performance and reliability. And so the only way I can achieve that is spending all of my time focused inward to figure out how do we deliver that kind of brand consistency, even if it's in a business like IT consulting.
That's very insightful. Extremely difficult to do in services business, in MSP and IT services business, where the every client is different, even though they may have similar problems. It is different environments every time. Um, can you address somehow how you have standardized
Sure,
product or delivery or quality across um, an industry and a business segment where every call and every issue is different every time?
sure. Every customer is the same. They have a pain, they have a problem, they want it to go away. They don't want to pay more than they should, and they don't want to be talked down to, and they want to understand what's going on and want to know what can they do so this doesn't have to recur. So the problem with that is the people in the IT industry are more nerdy and more interested in looking at a screen like this rather than talking to a person. And so, I haven't done the research, but I would imagine there's a lot of folks that are more neurodivergent within the IT world. And so the problem is the classic, bad bedside manner that you would hear about in the medical world. We have bad bedside manner in the IT world because the technology people don't like to have to do things like explain what happened or describe it to them like they're a 6-year old, or be patient, or put up with stupid questions if that's what they think they are. And so that disconnect is what creates awful IT interactions, which if you care about that kind of stuff, the bar is very low. And then you just have to figure out, how do I bridge the gap for that very brilliant person who maybe doesn't want to interact with that office manager who wants to know why her trackpad isn't working, and making that leap. Apple's figured this out. If you go to an Apple retail store, they have hired only people who get that, and they will select and probably discard a ton of brilliant technical people for people who just want to help others. So supplementing those deficiencies, helping people focus on um, finesse and credibility is a huge one. We spend a lot of time on that. We also spend a lot of time on making sure people take care of themselves. IT people, if you ever look at them, it doesn't resemble an Ironman, competition or a triathlon. They, marathon. You're a runner, the IT people do not look like the healthiest bunch because, frankly, they don't prioritize themselves. So we put a lot of work over the last probably 10 years, especially, just trying to help our people take care of themselves first and then help the customer. And that's proved to be a winning formula.
Love it.
Yeah, it
Uh,
turns out if you're in business for 35 years, you learn a lot of things, in that time. And every year we get to reinvest that knowledge back in. So a lot of people say, "Oh, you guys are so lucky, you're so lucky." No, we've been just reinvesting all of these painful dividends year after year. And if you do that, you can actually get an opportunity to improve your service delivery. And then everything gets a little bit easier. And when it gets easier, that just attracts customers because they see how you figured it out. They see that you're relaxed doing what you're doing.
you on painful dividends. I love that term. Um, Now, where we are today and around the corner. So as AI reshapes and shapes everything, including the IT services landscape, what's your read on what it means for an MSP like Mann? Opportunity, existential threat, both, and how is it or will it be changing the systems and the people that you need?
Yeah, it's a very interesting moment. First of all, we're all very lucky to be living through this tornado right now. I went through it the first time with the early days of the web, where every day there was something new, and you could literally refresh Yahoo and see the new websites that were manually added to Yahoo back in the day, because it was yet another hierarchical organizer. That's what Yahoo actually stood for. And the problem is that pace has now gone exponential. And so it's created a lot of very tricky situations for technology people and for everyone. It's a little bit like global warming. It's one of those things where we know it's coming. We don't know exactly when it's going to destroy us. So that sort of lingers over us like a dark cloud. But in the meantime, I and a lot of the people I associate with who are embracing this are having weekly, if not daily, jaw dropping moments with this stuff. Jaw dropping moments. And that's exciting. We're very privileged to be living through this. Um, and in the moment, you don't always realize how fortunate you are. I don't think we realized how fortunate we were pre COVID, right? For some of those basic things. So it's a weird combination of people writing themselves out of a job, customers changing their perception on what the value of what you are delivering is, and the prospect of that entire jobs or even entire businesses will no longer be needed. I think inevitably, two things are very true with technology. Certain things come way faster than anybody thought, and other things come way slower than anybody ever thought. So if you thought broadband was going to kill AOL, I'm sure there's a long tail chart which shows how much AOL dial up revenue they had for years after broadband became ubiquitous. Similarly, I think there will be a lot of people who are going to be around for years, even though theoretically their job should be eliminated with AI. And other things will come way faster than anybody expected. I think we're already seeing some of that. Um, that combination and riding those waves is the essence of a lot of business. It requires a lot of agility. It requires businesses be aligned and employees be aligned. And it requires some tough leadership decisions because you're going to have detractors in your business. And it's not 0 to 100 AI adoption. There's actually even a negative quantity. The detractors will sabotage these things because they are so worried about job losses and preserving their jobs. So it's a very complicated thing from a business standpoint. If you need everybody rowing in the same direction and agreeing how they are going to do this adoption, and it's not a matter of whether or not it's optional. It's just mandatory. It's for those people deciding to retire. I don't envy them because this is like you sort of got to do this. Otherwise, you are going to be left behind, at least in a number of industries.
Yeah, and now to you, so you've built two companies that can run significantly without you. So what about you? What does the next chapter look like for Harold Mann? And how do you think about what these businesses need from you versus what they might need to grow past you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting any younger. I would say this has been a shot in the arm for me, this AI stuff, though. Just when things were starting to look sort of fine, this AI stuff is now enabling me to do so much more, so quickly, so inexpensively. Uh, and it's almost magically. And what's encouraging to me is how poorly it's being implemented and how awkward it is right now. And how you, when you receive an email from someone, you know within about 3 seconds if it was AI written. And so there's going to be a lot of opportunity and arbitrage and just interesting choices that people get to make over the next maybe 0 to 5 years. 5 years out, I mean, who knows the number of things that'll be different. But I would say I am really enjoying taking things that would have previously bottlenecked with an engineer, bottlenecked with a team of people, and now have it all run agentically. We are not cut out for this pace of acceleration, however. We're not designed for it. We're
We
designed for what's that?
we humans.
We humans are not designed for this kind of magnifying our ability and this kind of exponential growth. It's just, it's exhausting. And so we have to then rely on all these tools. And look, I'm not pretending like I don't have dystopian concerns on a pretty regular basis, but they're buffeted by these amazing moments. And, will an AI thing catch a melanoma better than a resident? If it does, that's so great. And has AI made it so I can't speed down Harrison Street in San Francisco because the security camera is tracking me? Yeah, that's pretty good too. I drive slower now in San Francisco. So there's a lot of good stuff, and I think there's a lot of companionship. I mean, I'm just so many good things in front of us. And yes, our jobs will change, and I encourage everybody at the end of your day, get on YouTube and just watch a few hours of this stuff because it's free and everybody's helping each other out. It's really exciting.
For for someone with your background in technology, do you feel like the past decades have prepared you very well for this moment? Or do you, based on what you're seeing in this very rapid pace of change, are you like, are you a kid in a candy store discovering stuff that the past has not prepared you for?
In the past, I thought you had to have a great idea in order to be successful. Then I got older and learned that ideas are easy and execution was everything. So now we have this weird choice where we can execute on almost anything for almost nothing in terms of cost. And so we have to make these strategic decisions of where we're going to spend our time. And you're going to hear this word a lot in the AI revolution, which is this concept of moat, right? What is your moat? That's what everybody wants to know. What's going to defend your business from getting taken over by a competitor? The moats are really hard to describe nowadays because things can just be copied. And so relationships, I've learned, are so important. Referrals are so important. I think we're going to see a renaissance in terms of in real life stuff, not only because of just a post COVID reaction, but people are going to learn that you take someone out, you make an investment in them as a person. Maybe the two martini lunch will come back. I think when you have those in real life interactions with people, those are what solidify those opportunities, and that is why they will hire you, not because your product is uniquely different from all these other companies. I am concerned, however, that in a desperate attempt to get market share, a lot of these upstart businesses are going to reduce the perceived value of these products and services significantly. And small business will say, well, we'd love to work with you, but these guys are giving it to us for 1/20th of what you charge. And the reason they're doing that is because they're in a village somewhere and it doesn't cost them to have any infrastructure or employees or to have to pay a health insurance for their staff or all the other stuff that makes things cost what they cost. So it's a very complex set of choices. And I'm glad we have the perspective on it to be patient, focus on the relationships. But at the end of the day, you can't vibe code a good relationship. That's something that only happens through reputation. And in a way, if you think about it, it comes back to that concept of brand, right? Who do you trust? Is there a new AI bank that opens tomorrow? Are you going to put your money in an AI bank? Or do you trust the guy at the bank, Mo, that you already work with, who shakes your hand and is helpful when you need him? So I think we'll have similar kinds of business relationships, which might actually be a bit of a throwback to, the old days of just taking someone out for a round of golf. I don't play golf, but I understand a lot of business gets done there. And or maybe a meal. The boondoggles will probably come back.
Yeah. That does make a lot of sense. I agree with you. The value of the humanity, the human interaction. What is it that makes us uniquely human? And I mean that's it's our moat. Um, so you're going to be spending more time on the business as you have.
It's what I do best. Sales does not give me the joy, um, and client interactions does not give me the joy that finding a piece of friction in our business and removing that either for our employees or for our customers does. Uh, you experience this with brands where it's an awful interaction. And all it takes is one piece of the interaction to ruin the whole thing. Suppose you have a great meal at a restaurant, fantastic food, service, everything, but it takes them 20 minutes to bring you the check and you want to get out of there. You're going to remember that piece of friction. And I think in our business, we see friction all the time. So we're trying to just eradicate that. That's what I do well. That's what gives me joy. And the nice byproduct of that is when I do it, it makes my employees' lives easier and they appreciate that. We've done one thing that has been huge for our business, which is normalize complaining. We make that a huge part of our culture because usually complaining is actually just people noticing friction, right? They're noticing something that makes it hard to do what they want to do. Customer complaints obviously are important too. You just take all those complaints as gifts. You can really just turn your whole business around just by listening to those and figuring out why is that happening? What can we do to make that not happen ever again? I'll tell you one other thing. A lot of people don't perceive they have the time to work on these things because they are quote unquote too busy. And that is where a lot of opportunities get missed. It's really about finding the friction and dealing with it right now. And that might mean pushing some other stuff off because all those someday things, they never happen.
Wonderful, very insightful. Harold, thank you so much. This is a rare look inside 34 years of founder-led growth, the systems that have allowed you to scale, the crises that forced the thinking, the discipline that it takes to build two companies simultaneously, and you're still the one that shows up with your vitality and love it. Thank you very much. Harold, where should listeners go to learn more about you and Mann Consulting and ClickTime?
Thank you for that. Mann.com, MANN.com, and ClickTime.com are great websites to at least give you more information. I'm findable on LinkedIn. I have a lot of connections there. I'm happy to help people out if they are just sort of struggling. My passion is helping people enjoy what they do, especially if they're in the service industry. I'm trying to finish a book on that, which I hope will be completed. Otherwise, it might be a posthumous achievement.
I don't. Harold, hey, what a pleasure. Thank you very much again for being on today's VCast, the next stage CEO. Talk to
Thanks,
you
Andrew. Nice talking with you.